8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tonight on The Late Show Live, Starmer reckons you're racist, Miliband thinks we're far right, and I've got all the juicy details of Shabana Mahmood's big conference speech coming right up. Hello, good evening. Thank you for your company on The Late Show Live tonight.
Well, I do think that it's a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it...
Absolutely rattled. Sir Keir Starmer slams Reform UK's migrant policy as racist and immoral, but was the first day of Labour's autumn conference overshadowed, as it's been revealed he's now the most unpopular Prime Minister on record. Surprise, surprise. And Keir Starmer's come out this morning and said that Nigel Farage's policies are racist, that he thinks Reform UK voters are racist. A big chunk of your constituents, Catherine, in Derby North are somehow racist. I went head-to-head with one Labour MP over the Prime Minister's rather outrageous claims that Reform voters are somehow racist, and also tonight...
because of the far-right global network that he now represents.
Oh, he's a high-calibre person, isn't he? Ed Miliband takes aim at you, the GB News audience.
Firstly, I wish to reiterate our legitimate claim and irrenunciable claim in terms of sovereignty over the Malvinas, South Georgia, South Sandwich Islands and the surrounding maritime areas that continue to be illegally occupied.
Yeah, not on my watch. Get your grubby mitts off the Falklands. A fresh battle over the islands has erupted with Argentina. Where's Maggie when you need her? And
when we moved to the Cotswolds, I just knew one area. We've gone to so many different places that I can't pronounce, but love.
Oh, no, not another one. The Hollywood exodus. A-list celebrities flee the United States to settle in the beautiful Cotswolds. We'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, hours before they hit the shelves in Blighty. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to you in Britain, including, unfortunately, the latest developments out of Michigan after a fatal shooting and a fire at a Mormon church. And what the bloody hell's going on there? Dear oh dear, I'll bring you the full video as it appears a young girl, she's 16 years old, has the Union flag snatched out of her hands by police officers at a migrant hotel protest. I'm Ben Leo, this is The Late Show Live, and your night's just getting started. Hello, good evening. Thank you for your company at this late hour. It was a bombshell day, wasn't it, at the Labour Party conference that made completely clear, in my mind, just how rattled the government is over the rise of Reform UK. In fact, I argue they're so rattled that breaking tonight, Shabana Mahmood is upping the government's anti-migrant rhetoric in a bid to trump Nigel Farage's surging party. I can reveal on The Late Show Live that the Home Secretary will announce in her big speech today that migrants in the UK will be forced to leave the country under Labour unless they can show they are, quote, good citizens. Foreign citizens will have to volunteer in their community, have a spotless criminal record, speak English to a high standard and be a net contributor to the economy to qualify for permanent settlement. The big policy announcement comes as Sir Keir Starmer's autumn conference kicked off in Liverpool today to a series of protests over his government's policies over digital ID and, of course, farm taxes. And as hundreds rallied against the government outside, Starmer was out in public suggesting Reform voters, maybe you at home, were racist.
It's a completely different thing to say we are going to reach in to people who are lawfully here and start removing them. They are our neighbours.
That proposal is immoral, to deport people who are already here if they don't pass more stringent rules. Do you think it's a racist policy?
Well, I do think that it is a racist policy. I do think...
See how wanting to protect your borders and controlling mass migration is racist, but there we go. There was also this from Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson.
And the message I've heard loud and clear from members here in Liverpool this week is that we've got to stand together, unite and take the fight outwards to reform. Divided parties won't win elections and we won't make reform if we're arguing amongst ourselves. The force of the reform, we want to divide our country, sow division and sow intolerance are at odds with our values, the values of the British people.
Yeah, division, intolerance, boring. Meanwhile, his housing minister couldn't even tell you how many new homes have been built under his own government.
How many homes have you built so far under Labour?
Well, do you know how long it takes for a planning application to go through?
Just how many?
Do you know how long it takes?
Just give me the figure.
Well, we're currently dealing with
the figure.
We're currently dealing with the tail end of what the Conservatives were doing because it takes more than 18 months from an application to the home being built.
Please answer the question.
But I'm not going to take the blame for what the Tories did.
No,
I'm going to take the blame for what Labour does if it goes wrong subsequently.
Can you
we're changing the rules to speed up planning so that the problem we're seeing now doesn't happen again in future.
How many houses have been built under Labour so far?
Starts have gone up by 29%. What I can't do...
Can you give me a figure?
Well, I know it's really low, and I'm appalled by it as well. But that is because the Conservatives didn't get the applications through.
Please don't tell me you don't know the number as
Conservatives didn't get the applications through.
Do you know?
29% up starts.
No. How many new
year.
homes have been built since Labour took power?
I don't have the exact... I'm not Wikipedia.
Goodness me, that is excruciatingly painful. Could you imagine, just imagine for a second, that happening at a FTSE 100 company in the city? Somebody coming up to a worker and saying, give me how many sales we've had today, how many new houses have you built? I don't know. He'd be sacked on the spot. I can guarantee it. And I don't know why we have such incompetence that it's accepted widely across government and our politicians. It's insanely bad. These are low-grade people. But wait there, because it gets much, much worse. New polling reveals Sir Keir Starmer is now the most unpopular Prime Minister on record, with only 13% of voters satisfied with him. And then there was this from the Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham.
am worried about, and I think we do need to debate at this conference, in my view, is how can you have an open debate about all of those things if there's too much of a climate of fear within our party and the way the party is being run? How do you get an open debate about the direction that we need to take to reconnect with the public if a party member is suspended for liking a tweet by another political party or a member of parliament?
Right, well, with record low polling and leadership woes, is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to hang up his boots? Earlier, I spoke to Labour MP for Derby North, Catherine Atkins, and asked her whether she thinks a big chunk of her constituents in Derby North are racist. That was, of course, after the Prime Minister accused Farage and Reform voters of endorsing racist policies.
I think you've made several leaps there, Ben. I think there is a real concern that Reform have just got this policy wrong. And certainly I don't think that my constituents in Derby want to see people that have been living in our city for years or decades, working, paying their taxes, contributing to our community, deported. So I think absolutely we need to ensure that we have secure borders, and that is what this government is determined to achieve, which is why it's taking the action it is in tackling people trafficking and making sure that we've got the work in place to close asylum hotels, to have a robust system that we definitely need. But that is very different from deporting people that have been living here for decades. I think Reform have got it wrong, and I think it's right that Starmer makes that clear.
Yeah, Keir Starmer this morning as well saying that Nigel Farage and Reform would pose a national security threat to the country. I mean, I do have to wonder what's a bigger national security threat than 50,000 undocumented, mostly men from faraway lands with different values and cultures to ours being released into communities all across Britain. Do you not sense a touch of sort of irony in that statement from your Prime Minister this morning?
I think that we are starting to see Reform's record when it comes to the councils that they're running. And what we're certainly seeing in Derbyshire is that they're making a total hash of it. When we want to see good adult education, whereas they're closing down centres, we've got real concern ensuring that we actually have SEND provision. I know, but you're talking about whether or not they would be able to do anything that they're talking about doing. And the reality is we are already seeing in local government the biggest difference between what they promised and what they're actually delivering. And what they're delivering locally is certainly not what they promised. I think there was a lot of taxes down and services improved. We're not seeing any of that. And I think that if they're even a fraction of the incompetence we're seeing in local government, I don't want that anywhere near national government, yet alone our security.
OK, Catherine Atkinson, thank you. Appreciate your time. Enjoy conference, and we'll catch up soon. Thanks for joining the Late Show Live. Oh, that's funny, isn't it? Catherine Atkinson there saying there's a difference. Atkins saying there's a difference between what they promised and what they're delivering. I mean, we could start with smashing the gangs, 50,000 migrants across the Channel under Labour. We could start with growth. I mean, the one policy this government forms their whole policy mission on. Where we've had no growth, stagflation, in fact. A sense of irony there from Catherine Atkins. Well, GB News political editor Christopher Hope has been out and about in Liverpool for GB News on day one of the Labour Party conference. This is what he found out.
Catherine Atkinson there trying to explain why Sir Keir Starmer said that some of the elements of Reform UK's policies were racist, Ben, but she wouldn't answer directly the question about whether people who vote Reform UK are therefore racist. That's, I think, the question mark. The Labour Party is going after Reform UK. They are the enemy. We've heard that from Sir Keir Starmer already this weekend. But if you attack their policies in such, frankly, inflammatory terms, are you not then saying people who vote for that party, whether they support them in the polls now or in the election in up to 4 years' time, are they racist too? And that is a question I think that Labour have to answer. The risk they've got by using that language about Reform UK is they're attacking the people they want to appeal to come back to the Labour Party, and by using the racist word, that is a problem.
Right, let's get the take of US commentator and Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner, or Weiner, sorry Bob, you prefer Weiner, don't you? And the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Good evening, panel, welcome along. Bob, let's start with you. You've just come back from the UK, haven't you?
Yes.
Did you have a nice time? Did you feel safe and inspired?
I felt safe, and I loved your healthcare plan. The National Health Service took care of my wife. She broke her arm on the last day there, and within 4 hours she'd been x-rayed, she'd been given a sling, she was given the prognosis, the diagnosis, and we were out. And then I said, what do we owe? And they said, you don't, because it's all free in London, it's free in England, because you pay for it, as you pointed out to me, through your taxes. What a good system. We want it.
I'm glad. Well, sorry, I mean, commiserations to your dear wife for breaking her arm. Unfortunately, I think the experience you've had there of the NHS is a very good one, but I don't think it reflects the wider situation of the NHS in the UK. And you are very welcome. It is our taxes that pay for the NHS. It's not free, but you were impressed with the NHS?
Very much so, and they called afterwards to make sure that she was doing all right. They followed up. Wow.
Oh, good. I'm very glad. Yeah, you can buy me a pint after.
There you go.
What did you make of the political situation, Bob? Keir Starmer seems to be under immense pressure back home in the UK, and now he's going around calling Reform UK voters racist, and his Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, calling this entire operation, GB News, far right.
Well, you've discovered the same problem that President Trump actually scored with, which is immigration, and the fact that he zeroed out the border. He should have stopped with that instead of putting everybody into rooms where there's 150 people and there's water and toilets for 25 people. You can't do that, and you can't send people and deport them and separate families. So he's trying to do that, and then he thinks that that's the way to go in terms of fear of replacement theory. But in your pensions, I know that you have a big issue with pensions. We are dealing with Social Security. It's an issue that you've got to solve because people are getting older, and it's going to cost the governments more. But nonetheless, you have to take care of your old people, and we do too. And that's the third rail in America, is not touching Social Security.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, we've got problems with the economy, pensions, migration, employment, cost of living. I mean, you're just touching the surface. But Victoria, welcome along. What's your take on Keir Starmer today? Do you think he is at risk of being toppled? The likes of Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Manchester, making leadership moves. What are you seeing as an American from this side of the pond? What's your impression of Starmer?
Well, of course, it's a little bit different from what we have in the U.S. that, leadership can change in the U.K. at any moment. And I think the thing that is fascinating about this is that I think Starmer is really kind of reaching out for a life jacket or a life vest within the Labour Party, because, I mean, he's had to sack and get rid of people all around him, right? You've had Angela Rayner gone. You've had the UK ambassador to the US, Mandelson, he's out. And so, all of these leaders within the Labour Party are out, and Starmer is kind of the final one. I think the question is, will public opinion force him out?
Do you think Reform UK voters are racist?
Absolutely not. This is just the latest example of terrible rhetoric within the political left, whether it's in the US or the UK. Just the other day, Kamala Harris said fight fire with fire during her this redemption book tour that she's on. And I've always been somebody that wants to have a conversation, a debate. I grew up in primarily liberal areas, and I've always said that I was taught in schools how to think and not what to think. And I think that's what we need to get back to with my generation and even the ones coming up after me.
Yeah, and also Bob, today, sorry, just to add, Keir Starmer said yesterday, which Nigel Farage had a problem with, saying that Farage was the enemy in plain sight, and Nigel Farage accusing him of being one step away from inciting violence. When are you all lot going to tone down the rhetoric, especially after the murder of Charlie Coe?
I like Nigel. I've been on his show 6 times or so, and I think he allows voices as you do.
Do you think he's far right?
I think he's good on immigration, and I think that's an issue that Biden did not score on, and Trump did.
Do you think he's far right?
In some areas. But let me get to what you said about Kamala Harris, because what she said about not predicting the capitulation of law firms, of universities, of companies, of industries, that's just dangerous. That's taking away our republic. That's taking away the democracy that you taught us to have. And she makes a point on that. She's a has-been. She isn't going to be able to. But that's a valid point, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care for Kamala Harris actually anymore.
Yeah,
she's a complete has-been. Franklin. I don't know who. I mean, she shows the. She shows. I mean, JD Vance described her perfectly the other day. She has the IQ of room temperature. She can't speak. She has nothing about her. She has no policies, no inspiration or ideas. And there's a reason she got trounced at the election by Trump. Can I ask you, please? Oh, we've got some breaking news actually. 1 second. Let's get this. Sadiq Khan has made a big announcement. You've just come back from London, Bob. Sadiq Khan is hitting back on crime misinformation. So this is breaking just now. The Mayor of London has hit back at politicians, I guess he's talking about Farage, spreading misinformation about safety in the capital as new data shows the number of violent crimes leading to injury, that's very niche, has fallen in every London borough over the past year. So figures from the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime, which compared the 12 months ending in August with the previous 12 months, showed there were around 8,500 fewer crimes which resulted in someone being hurt. That's a drop of nearly 12%. Sadiq Khan has said, we've seen a number of politicians here and across the globe talking down London and spreading misinformation about crime and safety in the capital, but these figures suggest otherwise. Bob, you just got back from London. Did you feel safe in London?
Well, that's just like Trump. The crime has dropped 25 to 50% in just about every city, and he's trying to send in the National Guard to take over the country. It's what he's really doing. It's a big anti-democratic move. He's setting up the Guard, and he's setting up the Trump, and he's setting up the military.
You keep steering it back to Trump.
He's setting up the military to take over the elections in the off-year elections. It's all to scare people away from voting in the midterm elections, which he's going to lose big time.
Bob, have you got Trump derangement syndrome?
No, you know I don't. Didn't I praise him on immigration?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You did. You're being very fair. Did you feel safe in London, though?
Absolutely.
Because Sadiq Khan's come out firing now against the likes of Nigel Farage, other politicians. Look, I argue people just aren't reporting crimes. They're so fed up with the police, Victoria, not taking action. They're knocking on Brits' doors for tweets and social media posts. They're not bothering to report crimes when they happen because they know nothing will be done about it.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, this is the issue that we've had right here in Washington, D.C., where we're sitting right now, is that I've had friends who have reported crimes and it's taken them multiple minutes, if not hours, to get a response from the police. And they've actually welcomed the National Guard as they've been here in D.C. over the past couple months. You know, actually just one of my colleagues at the Daily Mail, he had some crazy individuals come into his apartment in Navy Yard, just a couple miles away from where we're sitting now, and the National Guard was able to restrain that individual before police showed up. But if the National Guard hadn't been there, that might have been a completely different story.
I love them. I love seeing the National Guard on the streets of DC. They make me feel safe, Bob. I salute them. I say thank you for your service, and yeah, if they're stopping.
It's a militarization of the United States. We have a Posse Comitatus Act, which says the military can't come in and they can't do local law enforcement, and yet they are doing it. I'm telling you, mark my words, Trump is going to try to take over the midterms with the National Guard and with the military. That's why they have Hexeth and this big military conference coming in. They're going to try to bolt them into loyalty.
Oh, we'll have to get you over to the safety of the UK then, Bob. Stay there, you come back with me. Right, still ahead, thank you both, Victoria, Bob. Still ahead on The Late Show Live, I'll bring you the latest from really tragic story in Michigan, the church shooting. President Trump has called the shooting where 2 people died earlier today a targeted attack on American Christians. I'll have all the full details very shortly. But before that...
Shortly afterwards, the Argentine forces there surrendered to British forces.
Rejoice at that news and congratulate our forces and the Marines.
Let me tell you, get your grubby mitts off the Falklands, not in Maggie's name. Argentinian President Javier Milei has reignited Falklands tensions by describing the islands as illegally occupied by the UK. What do you think about that? gbnews.com/your say. I think I can probably guess what you're going to say. I'll reveal all after the break. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Firstly, I wish to reiterate our legitimate claim and irrenunciable claim in terms of sovereignty over the Malvinas, South Georgia, South Sandwich Islands and the surrounding maritime areas that continue to be illegally occupied. In spite of the fact that 80 years have elapsed since the creation of this organisation, colonial situations such as this one remain unresolved. For this reason, we call upon the United Kingdom to resume bilateral negotiations in accordance with Resolution 2065 of this very same General Assembly.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Ben Leo, and surprise, surprise, the RGs want the Falkland Islands back. Absolutely not. No is the answer. Do one. That was Argentinian President Javier Milei igniting a fresh battle over the islands that we bravely defended, of course, in 1982. In a speech at the UN, Milei called Britain's overseas territory illegally occupied. Well, I took to the streets of Washington, D.C. to settle the matter once and for all with a local Argentinian I bumped into with a game of rock, paper, scissors. Take a look.
Are the Falklands British or Argentinian? No.
No, Islas Malvinas.
They're Argentinian?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. You think that they are British?
Do I think they're British? Yeah. Falkland Islands. We shed British blood on the seas. But yesterday, Milei said, no, they are Argentinian, Malvinas.
Yes.
You think they're Argentinian? Yeah. We have to do rock, paper, scissors. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yes, they're British. Thank you.
Well, there we go. I did my part, at least. Well, let's go live to Chairman of the Falkland Islands Chamber of Commerce, the Honourable Roger Spink. Roger, good evening. Thank you for your company. What do you make of this nonsense from Milei bringing up the Falklands again? It seems a bit of an insult, actually, and a waste of time for him and the Argentinians, no?
Thank you very much. I'm a former chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm now a member of the Legislative Assembly. So just to correct that.
Very good.
No, it's not unusual for Argentine presidents to make such comments, and particularly as they've got their midterm elections coming up. So it's not something that people in the Falklands are panicking or surprised over. There's a constant stream of rhetoric like this. We're very confident in the protection that we receive from the British troops within the islands. We have broad cross-party support within the United Kingdom. And I think, we've got elections coming up in December of this year I don't think anyone would get re-elected who didn't believe in our right to self-determination and our wish to remain a British overseas territory. So, I think the support for the Falklands carrying on from the people that have lived here for many generations is absolutely rock solid. So I don't think that it's anything that we should panic over.
Roger, my panic comes from not from the people, the good people of the Falklands, but from our Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who seems to, in order to appease every man and his dog on the international world stage, just give away swathes of British territory. Of course, the Chagos Islands I'm talking about primarily. What's stopping him from doing the same again and saying, sorry, let's rid the sins of our British past and give you back the Falkland Islands?
I think, to be fair to Keir Starmer, he made a very strong statement at the Joint Ministerial Council that was held last year, where he said that it's personal to him. Certainly the Falklands is personal to him. He had a relative who fought back in 1982 and was out at San Carlos on a vessel out there. And we have many, many supporters amongst the current Labour cabinet who have actually been to the Falklands and been members of the all-party parliamentary group that supports the Falkland Islands' right to remain to self-determination.
OK, well, I'd rather they were equally as concerned if they didn't have a connection to it. I mean, just because they have relatives who fought in the Falklands, it seems to be that they're saying, OK, well, just because my family were there or fought in the war, of course, in '82, I'm promising to make sure that we retain sovereignty. Roger, last question to you. Would you be willing to take up arms if it came to it? Would you be out on the front line in the Falklands defending from the RGs?
I'm probably a little old to be doing that, but we do have our own self-defence force who probably all would.
For Britain, Roger, for Britain.
Take up arms, yes, certainly would be.
Good answer. Roger, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. Roger Spink from the Falkland Islands. Really appreciate it. Let us know what you think on that. gbnews.com/your say. Do you trust Keir Starmer and this Labour government to make sure the Falkland Islands stay part of British territory? I sure don't. Look how they behaved over Chagos. Anyway, still ahead on The Late Show Live, I'll bring you the latest from Michigan. President Trump has called the fatal shooting there earlier today, 2 dead, unfortunately, by a targeted attack on American Christians. And there's some shocking footage as well of the church which was set on fire by the shooter. We'll bring you that very shortly. But before that, I'll bring you all the latest front pages, including what stories are leading here stateside. And I'm joined by GB News superstar, former headliner Paul Cox, who I'm very excited to be reuniting with. Back in just a tick on The Late Show Live.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Absolutely convinced that amongst the reasons that people travel through France, which is a safe country, to come to the United Kingdom, amongst the reasons is because it's easier to work in our illegal economy than it is in other countries, and we have to deal with that.
Welcome back to the Late Show Live. I'm Ben Leo, and that was Sir Keir Starmer, your Prime Minister, on the telly there. I don't know why he always looks so confused and startled. Anyway, that was him defending his digital ID plans. More on that a bit later. He was trying to defend the plan, but couldn't even explain how it would work logistically, stopping illegal migrants. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the front pages hitting the shelves tomorrow in Blighty, starting with The Telegraph. Tele-migrants is the headline on benefits to be removed from foreign citizens in the UK. This is off the back of Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary's big speech coming later today on Monday at the Labour Party conference. Immigrants will face a good citizen test to stay in the UK. They need to speak the language, they need to have a clean criminal record, and they need to be contributing positively to the British economy. What a radical idea. The Daily Mail. Worried about immigration? Starmer says you're racist. Of course, this was the Prime Minister saying that Reform's immigration policies were immoral and racist, indirectly calling any Reform voters racist as well. Are you surprised? The Guardian, the headline reads, Reform's racist migrant plans could tear Britain apart, says the Prime Minister. Well, again, I'd probably argue that uncontrolled mass migration is already tearing Britain apart. The Washington Post, this side of the pond. President Trump is to attend the gathering of top generals. Bob Weiner was just talking about this. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War here in the United States, is gathering lots of top military, top brass for... well, I don't actually know, but Bob can explain in just a tick. And the New York Post, this side of the pond, Iraq war veteran ID'd as Michigan gunman. So the really tragic story of 2 churchgoers gunned down today in Michigan. The church set on fire, 7 others injured. Apparently the gunman was a former US Marine, an Iraq war veteran, and there he is. The New York Post headline reads, Face of a Madman. Let's get the take of comedian and GB News contributor Paul Cox in London. Paul, I've missed you so much. Have you missed me?
I've missed you terribly, my friend. I have missed you terribly. It's just not the same without you, Ben. They don't treat me as nicely. You used to call me a superstar. No one does that anymore. It's just contributor or comedian is no good, Ben. So I said I will stay all night and talk to Ben.
Well, tell us, superstar, what's on the front pages? What about this one from on the Times? Starmer failing to rule out VAT. This was a manifesto pledge, obviously, which he's broken. Have you clocked that?
I did, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what Starmer's doing. I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing, by the way. So, I mean, I'm not surprised any of us know what he's doing. Breaking manifesto pledges is his speciality. He's either introducing things that weren't in his manifesto pledge, i.e. ID cards, etc., or he's not delivering on anything that was in there. Nothing seems to make any sense. I think they're scrabbling around for ideas. They're scrabbling around for ideas because they invented a black hole which grows on a daily basis. Everything they've come up with to try and fill the black hole has fallen apart because obviously it's nonsense politics. And now we're looking at VAT, which is a huge story, Ben. What do you think of it?
I think it's an absolute joke, and it just proves that Labour are again lying through their teeth and trying to worm their way out of it. I mean, it was a manifesto pledge that they wouldn't raise taxes on working people. Arguably, they did that anyway with the National Insurance Employers hike. And now Starmer, 7 times this morning on the BBC with Laura Kuenssberg, refusing to rule out VAT. So, as you said, if you want to save money, if you want to try and find some money somewhere to plug this £20 billion imaginary black hole, how about you stop spending £11 billion on foreign aid? How about stop spending £22 billion on stupid carbon capture schemes that even eco-zealots think are absolute BS? What about, just £14 billion on public sector pay rises? There's about £50 billion for starters. I think it's a joke, Paul. What about this one from Shabana Mahmood? Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, it is. I mean, everything that can be taxed has been taxed, and now they're looking at taxes that already exist and trying to make them bigger. Basically, you cannot succeed in this country. During the late edition with Alex Armstrong, we talked about whether I was asked whether I would stay in this country if things got worse. And of course, I'm GB through and through. I love GB News. I believe in Great Britain. I'm as British as they come. But at this point in time,
that's because you're far right and a bigot.
I am Thank you very much, Ben. As I always say, thank you very much. I am. Because now, being a far-right bigot just means you hold some cultural value in Great Britain. And, it's systematically being destroyed by Keir Starmer. And these continual tax rises are further proof that this isn't a place where anything can grow. It's totally dead.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Paul. Miss you, mate, and appreciate you staying up late for us. Thank you. That's Paul Cox live from London. Speak to you soon. Let's get the take now of my panel, the US commentator and Democrat Party strategist, and the Bob Weiner. Your name's not in the also queue. His name's Bob Weiner, and the Daily Mail's US political reporter. Is her name there? Yes, Victoria Churchill. Welcome back, both. Bob, I'd like to talk to you about this front page story on the Times in London tomorrow. Immigrants face a good citizen test to stay in the UK. So they need to be able to speak to a high standard of English, they need to be able to contribute to the economy positively, they need to have no criminal record, and also volunteer in the community. Does that sound sensible to you?
I'm not against that, and I'm sort of away from my party center when I say that. But I think if you're going to be in the United States, be in the United States. So English as a language and an ID, and I don't really have a problem with that. But you're talking about the military gathering. That's outrageous. He's bringing in these hundreds of generals to make them take a loyalty test, the warrior loyalty, the morality of the generals, and that's what Heggs is going to do. And then it's very much like when Milley walked with Trump, and then afterwards he said that was a terrible thing he did when Trump took an upside-down Bible into the protest right near the White House. So we don't want this takeover by the military of our civilian government. We're very much against it, and all the mayors and all the governors are saying that, and that's what's going on now, and that's about to happen, is that the military coming in, which they could have done, they're all saying, by the way, on some secure Zoom. They didn't have to come in to do it.
All right. What about the military in the UK guarding our borders, Victoria? Do you think that's a good idea? Trump said he told Starmer to do it.
Border, yes. Cities, no.
I think any sovereign country should want to keep its borders secure.
Right.
It's an issue in the US, it's an issue in the UK. And we have to know who's coming into this country. I think the Trump administration has done a good job of stemming the flow, particularly across the southern border. But now they're going through this very in-depth way of figuring out actually who is in this country and how long have they been here. I mean, the story just, I believe yesterday broke out of Iowa. The superintendent of the Des Moines, Iowa public schools was in the country illegally and actually had a criminal record. This is somebody that was in charge of education in the largest school division in the state of Iowa. And, I'm sure there's many more cases that we just have yet to find out, just like his.
Yeah, then there's Fergie. I mean, people have records that they suddenly surface with in terms of Epstein.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, she's in all sorts of hot water, yeah.
Right.
Deport. Susan Pinky, on your sake. Good evening, Susan. You've said Starmer is the new Biden. You have to agree. I think we're in our Biden era right here. What's after that? I don't know. Anyway, still ahead on The Late Show Live. I'll bring you the latest from Michigan. President Trump's described the fatal shooting of 2 people earlier today, a targeted attack on American Christians. Also, there's this absolutely outrageous clip doing the rounds. A 16-year-old British girl has had a Union Jack flag swiped out of her hands by a copper. It's outrageous. I don't know what's going on there. I'll share that with you. But before all that,
when we moved to the Cotswolds, I just knew one area. We've gone to so many different places that I can't pronounce, but love.
Oh gosh, they're all coming. Find out which latest American celebrity has swapped or is looking to swap the US for a Cotswolds mansion. Keep Britain safe from the Americans? Only joking. Back in just a tick. This is the Let's Show Live, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Moved to the Cotswolds, I just knew one area. We have gone to so many different places that I can't pronounce but love.
Cotswolds locals are feeling like it's mission impossible to get some peace and quiet of late after an absolute flurry of American celebs moving to the Shires in Britain from America. They're all coming over. The Mail on Sunday today reports that Tom Cruise is the latest A-list celeb, reportedly eyeing up a mega mansion in the Cotswolds village of Wigginton. He'd follow, of course, in the footsteps of Ellen DeGeneres, absolute massive liberal. Calvin Harris, who is, of course, British, well, he's Scottish actually, but he spent most of his time in the US. Jay-Z and Beyonce, and of course local Brit celebs such as the likes of the Beckhams and Jeremy Clarkson as well. American Vice President J.D. Vance also holidayed in the Cotswolds this summer, and Steve Jobs' daughter married her childhood sweetheart in the Cotswolds village of Great Chew just a few months ago, with wedding guests such as Elton John and the Kardashians as well. And Great Chew is a very beautiful little village. Thoroughly recommend it. Right, locals have told The Telegraph that the area in the Cotswolds is turning into Bel Air, as people don't understand country life anymore. So why are US celebrities so obsessed with coming to Britain, and particularly the Cotswolds? Well, let's get the take from a Cotswolds native, former royal butler and author of the new book, The Royal Butler, Grant Harold. Grant, good evening. Thank you so much for staying up so late. It's, 1 in the morning pretty much in the Cotswolds. How many celebs have you spotted around your neck of the woods? And are you worried there's going to be a massive takeover, Grant?
Do you know, it's interesting because I've noticed over the last few years you see more and more celebrities, especially where I am, because I'm near the village of Tetbury, which is basically between Princess Anne's Gatcombe estate, and you've got Prince Charles, the Highgrove estate, quite near me as well. So you get quite a few celeb or big A-listers from the States coming over. And as you've mentioned, we're aware of a lot more celebrities moving into the area, which doesn't really surprise me because I'm quite biased. I love this part of the country. I've been here myself for over 20 years, so it doesn't surprise me. But at the same time, it is becoming, as you just said, becoming a bit of a kind of place to kind of go sightseeing to spot the local celebrities. That's a certainty.
Were you around when JD Vance holidayed there a few weeks ago? I mean, there was loads of reports about the fact that Vance apparently got not banned, but refused service at certain pubs and stuff. Have you got any inside scoop on that? What actually happened?
No, I was actually overseas at the time when all that was going on. But I mean, I've heard that. I think the problem is when you have these celebrity weddings, and we do have quite a lot up here, and you know about it because, well, you can just tell by the kind of roads getting cordoned off and the press that kind of around for these kind of events. And the problem is when you have these kind of events, you've got to remember some of these towns are really small. They're small communities. And when you have a big wedding, with all these celebrity guests and suddenly all this attention, it does cause a bit of havoc for the local community. And so some places do turn people away or the wedding party away because even though you think they would love it for the kind of the fact of who these people are, but at the same time, it can also be quite disastrous for business when suddenly you can't attract any business over that weekend because of what's happening.
Yeah. OK, Grant, and I don't want to drag you into politics or put you on the spot with anything, but I've always wondered why there aren't... I mean, you don't really have migration in the Cotswolds, do you? There's no migrant hotels or anything. Why is that? Are there local groups kind of sort of guarding the barricades? What's the situation there? No, not at all. But you are quite right. I mean, it's interesting. You don't really seem to have many migrants in. Says me as I'm Scottish. Originally, I don't know if I can give myself from that. But you don't often get many migrants in this area, or not that we know of. I think quite simply, the reality is the Cotswolds is quite a kind of peaceful, quiet little place. And again, if you come to the UK and, you're looking for work or jobs and that kind of thing, I'm not saying there isn't. I mean, there's fantastic opportunities, but you're more likely to find something in the cities. And I think that's why they probably stick to the cities and bigger towns. Yeah, it's also very expensive, isn't it, house prices? And I'm sure all the celebs coming over from America aren't really helping that. I think some Cotswolds towns and villages are only about an hour from London, Paddington, so it's a pretty decent commute as well. Grant, just finally, before I let you go, any word on the situation between the King and Prince Harry? Prince Harry was on the Mail on Sunday this morning, or was it yesterday, saying he was upset that it was a very formal meeting with his father. The palace briefed the Mail on Sunday today saying that they were shocked that Harry would say that kind of thing. What's going on there? It's all a bit sad, isn't it? It is sad. And again, this is where Harry's kind of talking about the situation where he said he wouldn't discuss it, he wouldn't get into it. And something has come out. So the thing is, with the palace, there's always leaks. There's always information that gets out. Even when I was there, information got out. And he's been made aware that the men in suits, as his mother called them, and just to be clear, that's the secretaries, the advisors, have put something out, or given the feeling that the King, they're stopping the relationship between him and the King, or stopping it going forward. Now, of course, that is possible. It is possible because of what's all happened. But he's kind of jumped on this and now speaking out, which is once again why you and me are talking about it, why we're reading about it. And this is what the King won't want. He will not want these kind of private discussions, these things that are going on, getting discussed. And it could be some sort of sabotage from the inside. Absolutely. It could be somebody leaking something to cause a problem. But at the same time, the best thing Harry could do, as I've said all along, is say nothing and just stay quiet. That's the best way to deal with this. Yeah, just shut it, Harry. Zip it. Yes. Grant, you've stayed up late for us, so I appreciate it. Plug your book. What's it called? What's the book called? Where can they get it? What's it called? It's come out in the States actually a few days ago, and it's called The Royal Butler: My Royal Life in Royal Service. So it gives you a bit of the kind of behind the scenes of what it was like to work for the family, and also getting to dance was a dream come true with the late Queen Elizabeth II, which is the kind of theme throughout the book. Oh, Grant, do you know what? I miss her. I miss the Elizabeth II. She was a stalwart. She was, you know, it's such a cliche to say, but it was like your own grandmother. She was always there. She was a constant presence in my life, and I'm sure
that's how I was described her. Yeah, that's exactly how we used to describe. We used to call her the granny. That's exactly you've nailed it. That's exactly how we used to call her.
God bless her. God bless. Grant, thank you very much. Get yourself some sleep.
Thank you.
Appreciate your company. We'll speak soon. Cheers, Grant. Right, let's get the take of my panel, US commentator and Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Victoria, have you heard of the Cotswolds in the UK?
Yes, we actually covered it even from the US angle when JD was there, as you mentioned just a couple weeks ago. But, you know, I think you really hit the nail on the head that this is becoming Bel Air or Hollywood because even liberals don't want to live in California because California is a mess. Of course, what we're seeing with Governor Gavin Newsom, especially his handling of the wildfires and really from everything that I've seen, construction is stalling. You know, people can't build their luxurious multi-million-dollar mansions. And so, you know, if you aren't tied in geography and if you have millions of dollars, which then convert into millions of pounds, you can go wherever you want in the world.
Bob, why do your lot do that? They go from California and New York and they go to these red states and set up camp and then, you know, why don't you just stay in your own liberal hellholes instead of invading everybody else's safe space?
I've enjoyed my 6 or so trips to London, and you know, we go to the Marriott County Hall and we look at Parliament, and we look at the Thames, and we look at Big Ben, and we see the beauty of Westminster Abbey. And I can see why people, I mean, I may not go to the Cotswolds, but Pat and I, my wife and I, loved our trip to London, and we intend to go back, and especially with you, Ben, and Alex, and Nigel out there. I mean, I love your team, so why not come visit you on site?
No, that's fine. I just don't know why liberals. Yeah, I mean, you're very welcome for a holiday. I mean, I'm just joking, tongue in cheek, but there does seem to be a theme where liberals and the left seem to leave the states that they've wrecked themselves with their own political choices and come and infringe on sort of red states that are operating quite nicely, and including the Cotswolds as well.
Yeah, you guys come into the United States too, and you have a lot of fun. And you know, the Chinese want to take over all of the agricultural areas right next to our bases. I mean, so you know, at least nobody's doing that to each other here.
Yeah, well, they're building a mega. I don't know if you guys know, they're building a mega embassy in London. Well, they're trying to get it approved. It's been built, but they won't say what the lower basement floor will operate as and the lower second floor. So, I mean, why won't the CCP tell us what's going on there? Very strange.
There you go.
Yeah, China's the one to look out for. Finally, have you been to the Cotswolds, Victoria?
I have not.
No? Have you been to the UK?
Yeah, that's where my husband's from. He's from just outside of Essex. Then he's got family in Norfolk, Sheringham. That's where I got to go on my last trip to the UK, so that was very nice. But, you know, I will say, you know, there's complaints about traffic. UK roads obviously have not been built for modern cars, and so, you know, I think if JD showed up with his SUVs, I'm not surprised that people were complaining.
Yeah, no, indeed. gbnews.com/you'll say, Douglas, good evening. You've said, well said, Ben. The Liberals should stay in their hellholes. Sad state of affairs has said, Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris ruined California. I have to say that Californians are hated in the US wherever they go. Is that true, Bob?
Have you looked at the budget of California? It's doing real well. It's the 7th largest economy in the world. So I think California has a lot to be proud of, and both Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom have helped engineer that.
Great. All right, stick with us on The Late Show Live. More coming up in the next hour, including the latest on that tragic church shooting in Michigan. And, of course, that video I want to share with you, a young girl getting her Union flag snatched off her by cops. Back in just a sec. No breaks next on The Late Show Live.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Parts of northwest Scotland will have a fairly breezy picture through the course of today with some rain at times, but for most of us, once any fog has cleared, it's going to be a fine day with plenty of sunshine. But do leave some extra time for your morning commute, perhaps first thing this morning in eastern parts of England, because the fog here could be particularly dense and a little bit slower to clear than elsewhere. Plenty of sunshine, though, for most of England and Wales and eastern Scotland. Some cloud developing as we go through the course of the day, but a fine picture for most nonetheless. Brightening up across parts of Northern Ireland as well after some morning patchy rain. And generally temperatures around average for the time of year, but feeling a little bit warmer than on Sunday, particularly in the south. But as we go into this evening, we might well see a little bit of late brightness developing across western parts of Scotland after a fairly wet much of the day. But the rain in the north and the east, even here, quite light and patchy, so not a particularly wet or soggy evening to come here. Some late evening brightness also perhaps across Northern Ireland, although the sky is fairly milky with that high level cloud coming and going, and similar so across England and Wales, so a mixture of cloud and clear spells as we begin the evening. As we go through the course of tonight, it's going to stay largely dry across England and Wales, a mixture of cloud and lengthy clear spells. So once again, perhaps one or two isolated fog patches developing in the countryside and turning a little bit chilly, but not as cold as it was on Sunday night. Further north and west, though, that southerly breeze strengthening, so turning quite breezy here. And look at these lows, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius, so a very mild night to come for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. It does mean, though, that Tuesday is going to be quite a cloudy and breezy picture up here. So outbreaks of rain off and on, mostly across western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but perhaps fairly soggy at times across parts of the higher ground areas of western Scotland and Dumfries and Galloway. Some rain for Cumbria as well, but many parts of England and Wales largely dry with sunny spells and temperatures above average for most of us, 19 or 20 in the south and 17 in the north.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tonight on The Late Show Live, Starmer, the farmer harmer, under siege at Labour Party conference.
Well, I do think that it's a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it is.
Labour rattled to the core. Sir Keir Starmer slams Reform UK's migrant policy as racist and immoral. Boo-hoo. But was the first day of Labour's autumn conference overshadowed, maybe, as it's revealed he is now the most unpopular Prime Minister on record? And
because of the far-right global network that he now represents.
Ed Miliband takes aim at you, the GB News audience, by calling you far right. We're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Brits too, including this one. The latest developments out of Michigan after a fatal shooting and a fire at a Mormon church. Also tonight. This video is outrageous. You need to watch it in full. I'll bring it to you very shortly. It appears a 16-year-old girl has a Union flag snatched quite viciously out of her hands by police at a migrant hotel protest. What the hell's going on there? I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and welcome to the second hour, where the stories get hotter, the pace gets a little bit faster, and the brakes have been completely dropped. Hallelujah! Don't go anywhere. Hello, good evening. I'm Ben Leo. Thank you for your company at this late hour. It was day one of Labour's party conference today, which slipped into turmoil after hundreds of furious farmers rallied against the government's inheritance tax changes and food security. They're demanding changes, saying the policies threaten freedoms, livelihoods and rural communities.
I want to farm. I want a future in farming. And at this rate, there's not going to be one. You know, I just want to feed the nation. You need a farmer 3 times a day, every day. And I want to be part of that. And it's so important. You know, I can't understand the hatred that Labour have against farmers. You can't make it up. They've stopped everything they can. You know, they're taxing us to the point we're not even breaking even.
Well said that man. Leave our farmers alone. When it comes as the Prime Minister today refused to say whether he would or wouldn't raise VAT. That's despite, of course, the Labour manifesto pledge not to do so. Well, joining me now is former Conservative MP Neil Parish. Neil, good morning. Thanks for your company at this hour. What's your take on what happened today? It seems Starmer, the farmer harmer, as I said just a few minutes ago, under siege from you and your colleagues.
Yes, Ben. I just can't really quite understand why Labour has gone for the farmers in the way they have. Farming is one of those industries which a lot of capital involved, very little profit, probably about 1% profit on overall capital. So, you know, if you're going to try and charge farmers 20%, then it just put inheritance tax. It just puts them out of business. It's one of those occupations where you really want to produce your food, look after your land and get on with looking after your family. And I don't think farmers can quite understand why they were singled out. I also think, Ben, I mean, my view as a politician now, not just as a farmer, is that if you're going to tax, then you want to bring in real money. The problem with this is that it'll affect individual farming families really badly. It'll take ages for the exchequer to get it. And what you're doing all the time is you're depressing the investment into farming. You know, if you take me my age, you know, I'm looking to hand over to my son. You just wonder all the time, should we make a bigger investment? Should we be liable to more tax when something happens to me or my wife? You know, this is the problem. And we want food in this country. We want to have great farming, and yet not only is it inheritance tax, but there's not really a policy at all. Labour hasn't got a policy on agriculture. I was doing a debate the other day and I said, you know, I wouldn't mind if I disagreed with Labour's party policy on agriculture, but they've got none except taxing the farmer. And I don't know why they went here. You see, I talked to George Eustace the other day, and he, you know, previous Secretary of State for DEFRA, and he said it was offered several times to the Tory chancellors, but we believed it was unjust and also unworkable. And I think you'll find that's what Labour's going to find, and they're just so unpopular with everybody, but especially in the countryside.
All right, Neil, it's 1 in the morning. Let's lay our cards on the table. Ofcom are in bed. Why are they doing this? They're going to make the Treasury £500 million a year. That's enough, so 500 million. That's enough to fund the NHS for one day. So let's be honest about it. It's not about the money, is it? So what is it about, Neil?
I think that sometimes it's class. I think they see it a bit as class warfare. I mean, farmers range from the lord of the manor aristocracy right through to your very hard-working farmer who has just making a living because they've only got a certain amount of land and they have to work that very hard. Many farmers are not any more than on minimum wage if they count all their hours. But I think they just think the countryside, and I also think, do they want the countryside as a playground? You see, a lot of farmers have got the conspiracy theory that they don't really want farmers. They would rather have either as a leisure park, a solar park, or build houses on it, and that appears to be what the countryside is for. And I'm not sure that Labour, and if I want to be kind to Labour, which I don't really want to be, but they just don't understand what we're about, and they don't understand, the amount of work that goes in it. And it's a generational. I mean, a lot of small businesses do go from generation to generation, but farming has been doing that now probably for 100 years. You've had, a lot of small and medium-sized farms to, carrying on. And I think this is where they just got it so wrong, and it's it's such a mean policy, and I think they should think again, but I don't think they will, because the Chancellor is up to her neck in debt, isn't she? She's slowed the economy down by taxing the private sector with all the national insurance, so I suspect she's looking for every penny she can get, so I rather fear they're not going to backpedal on this.
Well, Neil, I mean, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory that they want to abolish farms. I want to know what Larry Fink of BlackRock was doing in Downing Street just days before the budget, which annihilated farmers. I want to know what Larry Fink was doing at the state banquet just a few days ago in Windsor. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to suggest that farm and farmlands and farm estates are up for grabs by these massive multinational corporations with trillions of dollars of management under asset. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory at all. Just finally, whilst we're on the subject of inheritance tax, this, of course, comes off the back of this big breaking story yesterday that Sir Keir Starmer is embroiled in an inheritance tax scandal of his own to do with the land he gave to his parents and the donkey sanctuary. He says he did nothing wrong. Downing Street says that he never considered tax implications at the time. What's your take on it? Do you know much about it?
I don't know a lot about it, but I think you'll find he's going to have to be very careful because, of course, Rachel Reeves got herself the wrong side of the tax rules. And when you are a Prime Minister that is very keen on taxing others, you have to be squeaky clean yourself on this. And so, there's one of these things which is, again, it's all drip, isn't it? It's all damage, right back to when, Lord Ali was buying clothes for the Prime Minister. All of these things, they gradually stick, don't they? And I think that's partly what makes him unpopular as a Prime Minister, is not only policy, but I think just people just have no trust in him whatsoever. And he has destroyed, I'm not proud of where we left it when we left office, but, I have to, put it very facetiously, at least it took us 14 years to get to that state. What he's managed is 14 months, isn't it? And it's just amazing that they're in such a mess, and I think he should look to his own what tax he did pay, and if he didn't pay it, he's got to answer for it, because that's what we have a democracy, and Parliament, PMQs, all of those things are designed to bring this out. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens, because he's got a lot to answer for, I believe.
All right, Neil, thank you so much for your company. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch up soon. Sweet dreams. Thanks, Neil. Let us know what you think on that. gbnews.com/your say. Lots of you getting in touch about, a separate issue. Keir Starmer calling reform voters, or policies at least, racist. What have you said here? Let's have a quick look. James, good evening. You said, like being called far right makes a blind bit of difference these days. We were called far right for marching on the 13th, but it's okay. There were only a few of us there. I think that's a tongue-in-cheek comment about the crowd size. Paul, you've said lots of big houses in the Cotswolds. You'll get at least 10 to 30 people in each one. Well, I hope you're not talking about migrants, because I don't think the locals of the Cotswolds will be too happy with that. Anyway, we move on. Some breaking news in the past couple of minutes. The chief of police at the Grand Blanc Township Police Department in Michigan has revealed new details of the church shooting which took place earlier today. William Renai has confirmed 5 people are now dead. Goodness me, that's up from 2. So 5 people are now dead in that shooting, including the shooter who was shot down by cops. Authorities have confirmed 2 of the bodies have been recovered from the rubble of the burnt-out church. That's in addition to 2 who were shot dead. And just as a reminder, terrible story. A gunman who has been ID'd tonight by the New York Post as a former US Marine. He was an Iraq veteran. He stormed the congregation, opened fire, and then set fire to the church. Terrible, terrible story. Let's get the take of US commentator and Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Bob, any thoughts on what's happened in Michigan?
Terrible, horrible. And I haven't heard what was the gun, and I haven't heard how easy it was for him to get it. But I know most countries in the world are much better than we are at all of that. And I just think that it's a terrible situation. You know, and the other thing, though, for Trump to start making it some kind of a political thing, which he does on everything, it's not. He's got to understand that the numbers are true. That it's 6 times violence from the right as it is from the left. So he's just off on that.
I mean, where'd you get those stats?
That's what
Have you just plucked them out of thin air, Bob?
No. Those came out in a hearing, and the Justice Department actually withdrew and erased that report. They didn't want anybody to have that report.
I mean, we don't know the political affiliation of this guy. He's, of course, a US Marine. Right. He's an Iraq veteran. I'd maybe suggest by default, if you're a military person, you'd probably maybe be more right-leaning. I don't know, but we don't know in this case.
There you go. There's no justification for either side, and presidents of both parties, you know, have had assassination attempts. So there's just nothing that, I mean, Lincoln. So and so forth. Yeah. So it's just not something that can be tolerated. And everyone who wants to tone down the rhetoric. When Trump went in front of the funeral of Charlie Kirk and said, "I disagree with him. I hate my opponents, and I don't want to forgive." What is that? What was that?
Bob,
that was just awful.
I'll get your take on this. But Bob, as I said to you off air, I can't blame the man, whether you like Trump or not. They tried to kill him in Butler. They tried to kill him in Florida. They tried to jail him for life with stupid trumped-up charges from a Democrat-led DA. The case in New York where they went for him about business records was absolute nonsense because even the banks who were involved in that case said Donald Trump did nothing wrong. They destroyed his first term with the Russia hoax. This is a man who has been facing all sorts of BS, fake charges, fake news from his enemies. I'm not surprised he's on a vengeance mission.
Well, we've had this.
They tried to kill him, Bob.
We've had this conversation. Find me 11,780 votes. And that's and no one will know. And if you don't do it, I'm going to go after you. This is a guy who tried to cheat from the beginning, and that was cheating. That was absolute cheating.
Wasn't it interesting that 20 million less people voted in the election last year than the 2020 election?
Absolutely.
I wonder what that's about. What happened with that?
Well,
where did 20 million votes go?
We made the point that the Democrat, and it was a H1 top op-ed in the Detroit News, that the Democrats blew it on voter registration and didn't go after the right votes, and they took away their organization. They didn't buy, the Congressional Black Caucus offered to do voter registration in the swing states, and the chair and Kamala Harris, they said no, they didn't want to pay for it. So that was really a stupid organizational decision.
Victoria, just going back to what's happened in Michigan, it's tragic. 2 deaths up. 2 deaths. Sorry, it was 2 deaths. Now up to 5 deaths.
Well, one was the shooter, though. So.
One was the shooter. Yeah, I mean, I suppose we don't care about him if you're going to commit that kind of act. Thoughts on gun crime in the US? Are you concerned as a US citizen? I mean, it seems par for the course. I was saying to Alex Armstrong earlier tonight when I saw this news breaking this morning, I didn't really flinch that much, to be honest, which kind of unsettled me a little bit, just because I'm so used to it.
Well, of course, tragic. You know, he rammed the car into the side of the church, and then he had people actually come out and investigate the scene, and then he started shooting at them. You know, I think it takes somebody of not the right mind to commit that kind of act. Of course, people always talk about mental health, but I do think that this is realistically an issue that we have to address, particularly veterans' mental health. Is something that the U.S., I don't know if the UK is any better at it, but I know that's something that members of both political parties in the U.S. are concerned about. And, you know, making sure that there are resources for veterans to get the resources that they need, whether that's through the VA or others. You know, that was something that Trump championed in his first term, was VA choice. So if you're able to get the help that you need outside of the VA system, that the government will still pay for it. And I think, you know, as somebody that tends to be more on the conservative side of things, I think the government shouldn't pay for many things, but if you have put your life on the line time and time again for this country, our country made a commitment to take care of you, just like you did of it. But you know, in terms of gun crime, I think this just goes to show that there is absolutely nothing sensible about gun-free zones, because criminals will always bring firearms into a gun-free zone. And if you even eliminate firearms, people will still bring other weapons as well. You know, obviously in the UK, knife crime is very common.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd say maybe in a way even more premeditated than firearm crimes, because to get close enough to harm somebody with a knife, I think you have to be intending to cause harm.
Yeah, it's a good point. Bob, what's your take on guns? Are you pro-gun, anti-gun? I mean, you've got I think it's something like 4 or 5 guns to every US citizen. So you can't eradicate them.
19 of 20. We've done the study and we've written about it. So 95% of mass killings of mass shootings of 10 or more are people who have AK-47s or AR-15s. So to have those assault weapons, those automatic kind of guns, I think that's outrageous. And the NRA is crazy to not say, yes, we should ban those, because then the worst headlines would disappear.
Why didn't Biden had 4 years to ban them? Why didn't he do it?
Well, he did. He did the Brady ban.
What's the Brady ban? Just tell British viewers.
That banned the assault weapons, and there was a significant drop of about 30% during the time that they were banned. But the NRA insisted on a 10-year sunset. So those assault weapons were banned.
Who's in government, the NRA or Joe Biden?
Well, the NRA insisted on it as the compromise, and that's intolerable, that they kind of run the government with their funds. It's a whole separate issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Victoria. Let us know what you think on that. gbnews.com/your say. Still ahead on The Late Show Live. King Charles reportedly feels perplexed by Prince Harry's allegations that royal officials are trying to get in between their relationship. I mean, this is a massive, massive story that's brewing over the past couple of days. It seems like their reconciliation has absolutely been torpedoed. It's been nuked by briefings to the media, whispers and rumour. That's coming up next. Right, let's go back to that breaking news. At least 4 people have been killed after a fatal shooting and a fire at a Mormon church in Michigan. Authorities have revealed the suspect was shot dead by police officers and that several more people have been injured, some critically. I think the death count now, again, it's just awful hearing this. It was 2 earlier today, it's now 5. There are still some people now unaccounted for as well. The suspect drove his vehicle into the church and began firing rounds at people attending Sunday service. President Trump has said tonight that this appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States of America, adding that this epidemic of violence in our country must end immediately. Well, joining me now is the host of Politics People podcast, Paul Dudridge. Paul, good evening. Thanks for your company. Is President Trump right that this is a targeted attack on Christians, do you think? It comes, of course, off the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who was a devout Christian.
Well, as you've already covered, we don't really know the motive yet. There's some in amongst all the chatter about whether it's left wing or right wing. Apparently, there's also some local turf war between the Mormon Church and devout Christians in that particular area. Again, that's just something I'm gleaning from social media, but nobody's absolutely certain about the motive of this shooter. But there is no doubt at all that there does seem to be an escalation in violence, in deaths, fatalities and attacks on Christian churches. That does seem to be happening. On this occasion, we don't know exactly what the motive behind that attack was yet.
And we're just seeing, these are the scenes now from a bit earlier today in Michigan. The church, I guess it was the shooter who set fire to the church, smoke and massive flames billowing from the church. If you're listening on radio, I'd say that the church is a write-off looking at that. Paul, you're based in LA. You're a Brit in LA, of course. Do you feel safe on the streets of LA generally when it comes to sort of violent crime?
I do, actually. Look, I'm very pro-gun. And again, look at this. Shooter was taken down by 2 armed officers. The terrible thing, this guy had, I think there were 3 more devices they found. Subsequent to this fire, the authorities have found 3 more devices. I do feel safe in LA. Look, I've got children in Catholic school in LA. There was an attack recently on Catholic schools because that's very much you know, they are the centre of kind of religious Christian schools, you know, that obviously do sometimes draw this kind of attention. So that's kind of a bit scary occasionally, but I am more comforted by the fact that there are armed officers and that there are actually armed security and people with guns here. Look, the awful truth is, it's like the UK, I just looked it up, has an increasing number of gun crimes. If you get rid of guns, the only people that have them are the state or the criminals. You had 6,233 gun crimes, apparently, in 2020, end of year 2023. So it's not as if they don't have gun crimes, it's just that you don't have any good guys with guns anymore. You only have them in the hands of the criminals. They can't be uninvented, and so I do feel more secure knowing that my children, at least, have armed protection.
Yeah, I'm pro-gun as well, actually, Paul, and I'm not sure a lot of Brits would kind of understand that point, because you say you're pro-gun and Brits will just think, well, you know, why do you want guns? Guns are violent, guns kill people. I argue guns don't kill people, people kill people. And as you said here, in America, I'm sure if America could push a button right now and take every gun off the streets, they probably would, because it makes sense. But you just can't do that. So at a time when criminals, bad people, bad hombres have access to all sorts of weapons, the only sane response can be is you need to make sure you're armed yourself. That's it. Would you, Paul, just finally before I let you go, would you be in favour of police in the UK being armed? Because there was a story from last week where there were big calls, I think it was from the Police Federation, I could be corrected on that, who said that police in the UK should be at least armed with pistols.
100%. I actually think that they should be now looking again more like Switzerland. You know, like in Switzerland, up until like 2010, it was mandatory to own a gun. I'd like to see the citizenry being able to own handguns as well, with some limitations. But absolutely, the police need to be armed in Britain. It's ridiculous. Like I said, it's not that there's no guns in Britain. They're only in the hands of the criminals. That's mad.
Yeah, indeed. Paul, thank you for your company. Appreciate it. We'll catch up soon. And yeah, Paul Dudovich live from LA. Thank you, mate. Let's get the thoughts on my panel now. Democratic Party strategist Bob Weiner and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Just any more comments on that, Bob, on the gun situation? Would you be in favour of UK police having pistols?
I think that's a call that you guys have to make, but what you've got to ask is, really, are we going to arm teachers? Are we going to arm people who have at sports events? Are we going to have everybody armed? Are the coaches going to be armed? So where does this take you? Especially, you know, there is a big debate in the United States over whether you arm teachers or not, and they don't want it because they don't know how to use them in a dangerous situation. So it's really a serious question. Guns, I don't get it. It's hopes and prayers, and it's never that the gun itself did the killing. Of course the guns do the killing, and if you check, and you're right about the mental health, if you check on the mental health of the person who buys the gun, and they don't have the proper mental health, they should not have a gun.
Okay, I think I've run out of ammunition on guns. We've spoken too much about it, unfortunately. Victoria, I want to get your take on what's happening in the UK with digital ID. Keir Starmer, of course, yesterday announcing that Brits are going to be on this Orwellian centralised database, and I mean, have you got any thoughts on digital ID? What are the concerns about it, if anything? Do you have any concerns about it?
Well, it's absolutely Orwellian. I think if you ask most people here in the US, they would not want that at all, because what that does, it enables the government to track private citizens and I think really, in a way, spy on their political opponents. But, you know, I think the Western world is quite different from places like China that do have a social credit system, that do have ways of containing their citizens, really, I think, beyond what everyday citizens realize. And I think that the West, whether that would be in the US or the UK, needs to stem away from that, because especially in the US, we are so prone to having our individuality. You know, we want what's best for ourselves, not what the government wants for us. And
yeah, well,
I think
you say we're far away from China, but I argue we're probably, I mean, if you go with digital ID, you're probably 5 years off China. Let's just remind ourselves what Keir Starmer said about digital ID yesterday. Let's take a listen.
We need to be really clear. You must have ID, mandatory digital ID, in order to work, because we have to stop illegal working. If you look at any of the raids, we've massively increased the number of raids on working premises. It is absolutely clear that people are working illegally in numbers.
Today could not give one precise, valid reason as to how digital ID would stop illegal migration, Bob. Clueless, devoid of ideas, devoid of inspiration.
This is one of the Republicans' biggest proposals, is voter ID, and they're going that direction. They're trying to get it state after state.
Well, that's different to digital ID, isn't it? The Republicans just want people who vote in elections to say, yeah, this is me, instead of ballot harvesting. Digital ID would be a centralised, computerised system where everybody has their name, their details on a government system.
Yeah, and you go with that, and then Doge and Elon Musk have been in all the databases going after the information on all the people. So it really does take you into an Orwellian situation, I think.
And what happens in China is, viewers, if you're not aware, so in China, under the CCP, they have the social credit system, don't they, Victoria, where you're linked to a massive database, you have a social credit score. So much like a financial credit score, where if you have 999, you can access some great loans. If your credit's in the gutter, you can't get credit, right? So they have a social credit score, where if you, for example, have an argument with a neighbour, you get a parking ticket, you criticise the CCP on social media, your credit score goes down. And what happens in China is if your score goes low enough and you're not an obedient citizen, as they demand you to be, you're then restricted from accessing, say, financial institutions. You maybe can't bank there. They'll say, oh, you can't travel to that neighbouring town or city. Or if you're too much of a dissident, you can't leave the country. Why does that pose a threat in the future, Victoria? What else could they kind of try and control, do you think, with that kind of system?
Well, I think they could control just about everything, you know, whether you get hospital service, what school your kids go to. I think all of these things, again, this is, you know, a couple years down the road if this does get implemented, which is why I hope that England really goes up and steps up and doesn't do this, because again, as you pointed out, even Starmer himself doesn't even know what he's trying to do, and so I don't think he realizes the gravity of the situation that he could be getting his own citizens into.
Yeah, I don't think Starmer knows what day of the week it is half the time, but anyway. And what could come down the line? I'd argue if you have another so-called pandemic, they'd say, well, if you're not vaccinated and your digital ID doesn't say that you've had 3 jabs of Pfizer's latest cocktail, then you're not allowed in a pub, as they tried to do last time around. Maybe it would be the eco-green scam, where they say, oh, sorry, Ben, you've travelled too much this year, your carbon footprint is too big, you have to stay in the confines of your seaside town. Or maybe they'd say, Bob, you've had too many steaks this year, Bob. Your carbon footprint is doing harm to the nation, to the country, to the world. You are eating chickpeas and gruel for the next 6 months until your social credit score is big enough. That's what they'll do. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but I don't care. What's the difference between a conspiracy and the truth? 6 months, as they say. Right, I want to get your reaction to this next clip where a flag, a Union flag, is seemingly ripped viciously from a young girl's hands by a copper.
Why would you do that? Because you're being a kid.
Victoria, this was an incident at a migrant hotel protest in Newcastle in the northeast of England. I don't know what the hell is going on there. A young 16-year-old girl has her flag ripped out of her hands by a job's worth copper, let's call him. Could you imagine this happening in the US? Your flag being taken by a copper, screwed up and then not returned?
No, absolutely not. And I mean, I think I read some additional reporting on this, that they allowed just about every other country's flag except the Union Jack in the UK.
Oh yeah, Palestine, trans flags, yeah, they'll take your pick.
And, you know, I think pride in your country, whether that's in the US or in the UK, should not be a controversial thing. Wanting to stand for the values that you were brought up with and wanting to carry them on into the next generation, especially younger voters. You know, I think that that is a welcoming thing to see, because so many youth, again, whether that's in the US or the UK, are being brainwashed into this multiculturalism, which, you know, they are seeing the negatives of it, because of course there's positive. I've grown up in areas with loads of immigrants. I'm an immigrant myself. I have no problem with that. But again, I think we were talking about earlier with assimilation. You know, I think when you come to a country, you need to be able to absorb the values of this country. You know, I say one of the reasons I'm more patriotic is because I'm an immigrant, and there's actually data to show this, that immigrants, at least in the US, have higher participation of, you know, civic institutions. They vote more because they realize kind of that burden that comes upon citizenry. And so many young people, I think, are so far removed from that, and so I think it's actually good to show pride in your country, like this young woman is doing.
Yeah, shame about the police, eh? I still don't think we have an answer from the police as to why they screwed it up and refused to give it back, Bob. But you, are you proud of the American flag?
Of course I am, but the National Guard just had clips shown on U.S. TV of grabbing and beating and stomping and bloodying a young girl who was part of an immigrant family. And so you just can't do that. You can't do it in any way. I'd rather have a flag taken out of my hands than see a young girl who has her face bloodied.
So what happened? Why did they?
They fired the guy. They fired the guy. They're disciplining him.
What was the reason for the attack?
Because these people mentally are going overboard in trying to enforce Trump's will on immigration. And that's what's going on in city after city after city. And that's why the mayor of Portland and the governor of Oregon and Illinois and California, and why all these states are barring, and it's almost a revolution that's going to happen. But Trump may want that revolution in terms of the National Guard coming in and taking over the cities. And then I'm coming back to what I said earlier in the show, setting it up for the off-year elections so that he intimidates people from voting.
Okay, I mean, Victoria, don't know.
Yeah, I just have a question. Bob, do you think that D.C. has become safer since the National Guard has been here?
Their crime was already down 25 to 30%, and Muriel Bowser wanted to satisfy Trump by giving in a little bit and making it so that they don't have their grants taken away. That's what happened there.
Well, I think, Eric Adams, who we were talking about a little bit earlier in the show, he wanted Trump and immigration enforcement to come into New York. Bowser was happy that these National Guardsmen were here, and I think we saw her change her tune a little bit. But I think if you talk to everyday people that are walking around D.C., myself included, my colleagues included, we have to show up here to work. And, firearms, I'm a big proponent of carrying firearms, but we can't do that in D.C. because it's federal property all over. So even if you have a carry permit in Virginia, you can't bring your firearm into D.C. because of the proximity that you have to federal buildings here. You make yourself less safe. And so in my ideal situation, every single person's individual safety would be upon themselves. But if by living and working here, as all of us do, if we have to give up that security, I would rather have somebody watching my back. And in my view, the National Guard's been doing that.
Yeah, you mentioned Eric Adams. That worked out real well for him today as he withdrew from the mayor's race and dropped out because he had 8 or 9% of the vote. So his capitulating to Trump and trying to do that really was an opposite effect of what he wanted it to do. And so now, you want me to just go through that. Now there's Andrew Cuomo in the race. Zoran Mandami is in the race with his free buses.
So, Bob, Brits we watching at home tonight thinking, I don't know who any of these people are, what's going on in New York, but there's one guy, there's a guy that is being called a commie, Zoran Mandani.
Right.
He's being likened to Sadiq Khan back home, but I think he's even far lefter than Sadiq Khan. Tell us about him. Is he going to have a chance of winning? And why are the right here so concerned about him?
Well, they shouldn't be, because the things that he wants are what people want. Free childcare, free buses, a rent freeze, and he's talking to the Jewish groups and wants to six-fold hate crimes prevention funding. So he's so direct in his proposals. It's a real platform. It's clear. He made the cover of Time magazine with it, and that's what people want, no matter where people are running. So Trump is deathly afraid of him because he's going to be a foil against Trump, but he's also totally clear on the issues that he's supporting that are pro-people.
Bob, I get the feeling you would never vote for President Trump. I suppose you can't again. He's finished, isn't he? He's done his terms.
I thought Bush, the two of them, and Reagan were patriots. I thought Eisenhower was a patriot. So I'm not anti-Republican.
Okay.
But this guy has real problems in terms of trying to destroy the democracy and as others have said today, the republic that we stand for, thanks to you teaching us how to do government.
Sounds like Keir Starmer, eh? Right, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Victoria. Still ahead on my Late Show Live, I'll bring you all the latest front pages, including what stories are leading here stateside, and also which matter to you back home, including this Mail on Sunday front page. Sorry, Daily Mail front page. Are you worried about immigration? Well, Keir Starmer says you are racist. This is the Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office.
Parts of northwest Scotland will have a fairly breezy picture through the course of today with some rain at times, but for most of us, once any fog is cleared, it's going to be a fine day with plenty of sunshine. But do leave some extra time for your morning commute, perhaps first thing this morning in eastern parts of England, because the fog here could be particularly dense and a little bit slower to clear than elsewhere. Plenty of sunshine though for most of England and Wales and eastern Scotland. Some cloud developing as we go through the course of the day, but a fine picture for most nonetheless. Brightening up across parts of Northern Ireland as well after some morning patchy rain, and generally temperatures around average for the time of year, but feeling a little bit warmer than on Sunday, particularly in the south. But as we go into this evening, we might well see a little bit of late brightness developing across western parts of Scotland after a fairly wet much of the day. But the rain in the north and the east, even here, quite light and patchy, so not a particularly wet or soggy evening to come here. Some late evening brightness also perhaps across Northern Ireland, although the sky is fairly milky with that high-level cloud coming and going, and similar so across England and Wales, so a mixture of cloud and clear spells as we begin the evening. As we go through the course of tonight, it's going to stay largely dry across England and Wales, a mixture of cloud and lengthy clear spells. So once again, perhaps one or two isolated fog patches developing in the countryside and turning a little bit chilly, but not as cold as it was on Sunday night. Further north and west, though, that southerly breeze strengthening, so turning quite breezy here. And look at these lows, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius, so a very mild night to come for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. It does mean, though, that Tuesday is going to be quite a cloudy and breezy picture up here. So outbreaks of rain off and on, mostly across western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but perhaps fairly soggy at times across parts of the higher ground areas of western Scotland and Dumfries and Galloway. Some rain for Cumbria as well, but many parts of England and Wales largely dry with sunny spells, and temperatures above average for most of us, 19 or 20 in the south and 17 in the north.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Reform. Look, if the challenge of the country is who will make it work for working people, Nigel Farage is not the answer. Nigel Farage is not the answer because of what he believes, and also because of the far-right global network that he now represents. And this could be summed up in two words: Elon Musk.
Welcome back to the Late Show Live. I'm Ben Leo. That was Red Ed Miliband, or Mad Ed as I call him, talking about, well, suggesting even that GB News is somehow a far-right network. Well, let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages. The Telegraph leads on migrants to be removed from the UK, migrants on benefits specifically, to be removed from the UK. This comes off the back of Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary's big speech today at Labour conference. That's coming a bit later on today, on Monday. The Mail headline reads, "Worried about immigration? Keir Starmer says you're racist." And I'll be discussing this in just a second with Paul Cox. The Times headline reads, "Immigrants face a good citizen test." Again, this is some detail coming from Shabana Mahmood's speech later today at Labour conference. There'll be a good citizen test to stay in the UK. Citizens will have to volunteer in their community, have a spotless criminal record, speak English to a high standard, and be a net contributor to the economy to qualify for permanent settlement. I mean, speaking English to a high standard, I'd argue some streets in Leicester will be in trouble there. I went to a street in Leicester, Mornington Street, where more than half the residents don't speak a word of English. The Guardian headline reads, "Reform's racist migrant plans could tear Britain apart." And the Washington Post, this side of the pond, Trump to attend the gathering of top generals. It's a meeting of top generals and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, coming imminently. And the New York Post reports on the Michigan church shooting. It's been revealed that an Iraq War veteran has been ID'd as the shooter. The face of a madman, says the New York Post. 5 dead now confirmed in that shooting. Paul Cox is live down the line from London, GB News superstar. Paul, good evening. Should we talk about Starmer calling Reform voters racist? Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised at all. He knows no other thing, does he, than to say racist. Keir Starmer has systematically destroyed the meaning and definition of the word racist. And look, it's so tentative, it's almost gaslighting to call any of these people racist. Now, if you were having your home broken into on a daily basis and you had the gumption to complain about it, and just because the people breaking into your home happen to be a different skin colour, would you be called racist? No, you wouldn't. Race has got absolutely nothing to do with this at all. We've got a crumbling economy. We've got a welfare system that is on its knees because it's trying to fund the whole of the world, and all people are saying that are supporting these essentially reform/Nigel Farage policies is enough is enough. It's got absolutely nothing to do with race. Now, the reason that Keir Starmer makes this about race is because he believes it's the only way he can win the argument. He can shut people down by calling them racist. Now, I would argue that would have worked all the way from 2016 up to 2 months ago. In 2025, from autumn onwards, no one is going to listen to this anymore. No one cares about being called racist anymore because racism, it doesn't exist in the way that they're describing that it does.
Yeah, no, I think you make a great point there. No one does care about being called racist or far right anymore because it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing, which moves me on to Ed Miliband today. That clip we just showed you suggesting, I mean, I'm not quite sure actually if he said he represents the far right global network. Was he talking about GB News there?
Yes, I think it was a thinly veiled attack upon our great station. Ben, it was basically left-wing bingo, wasn't it? He just chucked out a load of words, and you know, to appease the people in his audience there, which seemed to be a pub somewhere, I assume, near the Labour conference. Look, Ed Miliband, you know, whatever he says, he's only talking to a very small number of people. His cohort is getting smaller by the day. He's nuts about net zero. He's on a part of the Labour Party that are basically killing the Labour Party. Ed Miliband can say what he likes, but it's not going to make any difference. In the same way that Keir Starmer can say what he likes and call great swathes of the population racist, but because they don't like what's going on with illegal immigration. And by the way, that assumes that everybody that's talking about immigration or fears immigration or is having a problem with illegal immigration is white. They're not all white at all. Not, if you saw the protest and rally on the 13th of September across London, that was not all white people. It's not just white people that are concerned by immigration. Many people are concerned by migration because it affects many people's lives.
Yeah. OK, Paul, I want to show you, you've probably seen it 1,000 times. It's gone completely viral today. This is the moment Camilla Tominey of GB News absolutely skewered the Housing Secretary, Steve Reed, by asking him a very simple question, bearing in mind he's the Housing Secretary. Steve, how many houses have you built since Labour took power? Take a look.
How many homes have you built so far under Labour?
Well, do you know how long it takes for a planning application to go through?
Just how many?
Do you know how long it takes?
Just give me the figure.
Well, we're currently dealing with
the figure.
We're currently dealing with the tail end of what the Conservatives were doing because it takes more than 18 months from an application to the home being built.
Please answer the question.
But I'm not going to take the blame for what the Tories did.
No,
I'm going to take the blame for what Labour does if it goes wrong subsequently.
Can you
we're changing the rules to speed up planning so that the problem we're seeing now doesn't happen again in future.
How many houses have been built under Labour so far?
Starts have gone up by 29%. What I can't do...
Can you give me a figure?
Well, I know it's really low, and I'm appalled by it as well, but that is because the Conservatives didn't get the applications through.
Please don't tell me you don't know the number as Housing Secretary.
Conservatives didn't get the applications through.
Do you know...
29% up starts.
No. How many new homes have been built since Labour took power?
I don't have the exact... I'm not Wikipedia.
Oh dear, Paul. If this was Steve Reed's resume, job application right now, and I was his employer, I'd be saying, Steve, out you go, incompetent.
It's not Wikipedia, it's your... You don't need to be Wikipedia. It's your job. It's your office. You should know. By the way, Camilla Tominey, the absolute queen, what a legend, did not move 1 inch from the question. How many? How many? Waffle. How many? And he still couldn't answer. It's Labour's responsibility. They've been in power for 16 months. They said they were going to do it. They haven't done it. Just own up and say we're going to try and do it in the future. But it's just nonsense. We're losing all faith, and they're losing faith in themselves.
Yeah, I love the way Camilla was saying, it was making me laugh. Camilla was saying, Steve Reed Steve Reed, just love her. Camilla, absolutely skewing him. Paul, thank you very much. I'll leave you to it. Get yourself to bed. Thank you for staying up with us and the viewers and listeners tonight, and we'll see you soon. Superstar Paul Cox of GB News. Thanks, Paul. Right, let me read some your says. Thank you for your comments tonight. Eddie has said, hi, Ben. Starmer says we're all racist. I could think of plenty of names and things I could call him, which I could not repeat on here. I feel your pain, Eddie. Ed has also said, absolutely disgusting seeing police removing our union flag from that 16-year-old girl. It's like we can't be proud to be British anymore. Very sad times. David, good evening. You've said, I've always said, I'd rather die a free man than have digital ID. Shelley, good evening. You said people don't feel safe out there without guns, and they say if you ban them, you'll only drive it underground. Yeah, and Regalia, you say the majority of gun homicides are with handguns and in cities with the strictest gun control. And Paul, you've said Joe Biden had 4 years to make gun laws in America stricter, but did nothing, absolutely nothing. So put it all on Trump. Is that a fair point, Bob?
No, it's not. As I told you, he was the author of the Brady Bill, which banned the assault weapons, and then the NRA reversed it.
What about the majority of handguns are homicides in in cities with the strictest gun control, which I guess is Democrat cities?
You were going to say in Democratic cities. Actually, the greatest crime is in Republican-controlled states. So they sort of missed the fire on that one. But guns are a problem everywhere. You know that. And we've got to do something about it. But I don't disagree that there should be guns used for self-defense. I have my NRA sharpshooter bar too, and it was earned that.
Oh, good man. Right, let's move on. Victoria, on page 4 of the Times tomorrow in London, there's a story about mosques preaching misogyny while being granted pretty generous tax perks. Religious charities, including mosques and Baptist churches, are accused of promoting misogynistic attitudes. For instance, that women should obey their husbands, shouldn't leave the house without covering up, and shouldn't wear perfume. A report by the National Secular Society details how some charities are receiving public grants or gift aid and are also being awarded tax relief while appearing to condone different forms of misogyny. And it cites examples including an imam who told his congregation it was permissible for a man to hit his wife if she refused to have sex, and another who said women who wore makeup and beautified themselves were being destroyed. I guess multiculturalism, eh, Victoria? What a great thing it is.
Well, it's definitely concerning seeing this being outed, but I think it might differ a little bit from how charities and religious institutions are set up in the U.S. But, we have tax exemption, but I don't necessarily believe our charities, especially religious ones, are getting public grant money. So, if there was a way to curb that back, that might be the way to do that, because in the U.S., of course, we have freedom of religion, but that also means freedom from religion. Obviously, it's a little bit different in the U.K. with the Church of England and things like that. But, I think people should be free to practice whatever religion they believe. And, but going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think part of integration is integrating with the communities that you come to. And so if you want to preach whatever religion that may be damaging to your fellow man or woman, maybe leave that at your home.
Well, yeah, I don't want an imam preaching that it's permissible for a man to hit his wife if she refuses to go to bed with him.
That's right. Rape is rape, no matter if it's against your wife or your husband. It's just not acceptable, period. And the Violence Against Women Act is one of the key achievements, actually. You mentioned Biden. There's a lot that he didn't do. But one thing he did do is pass the Violence Against Women Act.
And what was that exactly?
That's what defined the terms and made the crimes that when men do violence against women, that they are subject to prison. Exactly what's described there.
Well, can you see when you hear stories like this about, this is from an imam preaching in a mosque about whether you can hit a woman or not, how they beautify themselves. That for me is one of the clearest examples of how multiculturalism has failed. That's not an American, Anglo-Saxon, British thing, is it?
Totally agree on that. You get no difference from me. I think that's just outrageous and should not be. If you're coming to a country, act like the country and act civil and act within their civil laws.
God, you're sounding a bit far right there, Bob. Sounding a bit bigoted. Right, on page 3 of the Times, it leads with wealthy Britons with deep patriotic ties are for the first time questioning whether to leave the UK entirely. That's according to the co-founder of a financial advisory firm in a warning light for policymakers before the budget in November. Stuart Cash, the chief executive of Ytree, which is a London-based wealth technology company founded almost a decade ago, said there'd been a striking shift in sentiment among even our most UK-centric clients, with those with a long history of investing their talents and wealth in Britain asking what their financial life would look like if they left the UK. Do you get this in America, Victoria? Do you get sort of the top talent, the rich and wealthy, seeing I guess under Joe Biden, seeing what happened under Biden and saying, well, thank you, I love my country, but I'm off?
Well, I think it's not necessarily nation to nation here as it is state to state. Bob earlier was talking about how he thinks it would be absolutely wonderful if Zoran Mamdani won the New York City mayoral race.
He's inspiring. Regardless of which side of the fence you're on, he's inspiring and he's getting young people involved. I don't care if you're Charlie Kirk or Zoran Mamdani. That's a good thing.
Well, Trump got many young people involved, particularly young men voted for him at historic rates, but even young women, I think, are starting to come to the right. But, again, I think you look at wealthy individuals leaving for places where they have better tax advantages. I mean, I was just talking to Kevin O'Leary yesterday at the Kennedy Center. He says he's more involved in politics than he ever has been because he sees policymaking opportunities and ways for him to invest his money with the current administration that he did not see with prior ways. But also, again, I think people vote with their dollars. Again, I think here it's more state to state than country to country, but people that make money, they're going to go places where they can do that better and easier.
Is it unpatriotic, Bob, to leave your country for events, going to Dubai for low tax, for example?
First of all, vote with your dollars. What Trump wants to do is arrest George Soros. And what about the...
Oh, thank goodness for Trump.
What about the Koch brothers? I think that works on both sides, that you can't have money that involved in politics.
Why does Trump want to arrest George Soros?
Because he's given to causes that Trump disagrees with.
Because he's been funding Antifa, BLM, burning cities down. He's been funding DAs in New York and all across the country.
Tell me who Antifa is. There is no Antifa. It's not a real leader of Antifa. Nobody's been able to identify that.
They are violent, far-left, lunatic thugs. So we have them in the UK as well. They mask up. They go to protests. They chase people like Andy Ngo. They beat them to a pulp. They are violent, horrible, far-left, radical lunatics.
And we used to call them the Students for Democratic Society. They always used to have a different name.
No,
there's always a name for that. And then there's the Young Americans for Freedom. They have them on both sides.
Bob, Antifa are not democratic. They claim to be. They claim to be anti-fascist. They are the biggest fascists going. They are what George Orwell warned of, saying the fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists. They are the most fascist, violent people going.
And if they were in the January 6th riots, I'd say you were right, except that Trump can't identify any of them that were in there in the January 6th riots that went to the Capitol. That's right.
Well, how many died on the January 6th riots?
5, and 140 cops were beaten, bludgeoned, and blinded, and lost their hearing, and some committed suicide. So, that was a terrible thing. It was a terrible. You wouldn't want that in your parliament, would you?
Well, look, I've got thoughts about January 6th, which you probably won't agree with. I mean, first of all, why were the doors just opened? Why were they allowed to walk in? Secondly, the only person that died...
To try to stop the violence by letting people walk in freely. That's the reason those cops acted that way.
Yeah, I mean, the cop that died of natural causes. There was another lady who was shot.
No, you saw the video. Believe your eyes. Watch the video.
There was a Republican woman who was shot dead by a cop. That was the only one of the riots.
As she was bashing, I watched that tape. As she was bashing in the Capitol to go shoot at the Congress people.
Yeah, I mean, I condemn all of it, of course, but I'm just saying when I arrive in the US and see MSNBC and CNN comparing January 6th to Pearl Harbor and 9/11,
that's ridiculous.
I think you've lost your nut.
That's
Sorry,
right.
Just finally, you've got 30 seconds. Antifa, do they exist? Bob says they're just made up.
Oh, they absolutely do, and I think, Bob, you're completely mistaken likening groups like Young Americans for Freedom to Antifa. Young Americans
for Freedom, yeah, right.
Young Americans for Freedom.
I was the head of the youth vote at the DNC.
Yes, Young Americans for Freedom is an organization very similar to Turning Point USA. It's been around since the Reagan days for 40 years. They're for free expression. Yeah. And groups like Antifa come on campus and they shut down campus speakers. This is something that I remember from my days as a member of many campus groups on the conservative side, is that these leftists would come and they would actually they would demand that groups on the right would pay for their own security for events because their own leftist colleagues on the radical left would come and disturb these speeches, which were meant to be for free expression and for open debate, which we definitely need more of in this country, is open debate and conversation.
They've stopped Michelle Obama from going and speaking on campuses. I mean, that stupidity works both ways.
Okay. Bob, Victoria, thank you so much for your company. I argue Antifa are far left violent commies, but we'll agree to disagree on that. Thank you at home for your company tonight. Appreciate you staying with me all weekend. Bev will be back tomorrow from midnight to 2 a.m. 7 p.m. local time here in Washington, D.C. And again, sweet dreams. I'll see you next week on The Late Show Live and all across Washington, D.C. Appreciate you. Sweet dreams. Good night. See you next week.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Parts of northwest Scotland will have a fairly breezy picture through the course of today with some rain at times, but for most of us, once any fog has cleared, it's going to be a fine day with plenty of sunshine. But do leave some extra time for your morning commute, perhaps first thing this morning in eastern parts of England, because the fog here could be particularly dense and a little bit slower to clear than elsewhere. Plenty of sunshine though for most of England and Wales and eastern Scotland. Some cloud developing as we go through the course of the day, but a fine picture for most nonetheless. Brightening up across parts of Northern Ireland as well after some morning patchy rain. And generally temperatures around average for the time of year, but feeling a little bit warmer than on Sunday, particularly in the south. But as we go into this evening, we might well see a little bit of late brightness developing across western parts of Scotland after a fairly wet much of the day. But the rain in the north and the east, even here, quite light and patchy, so not a particularly wet or soggy evening to come here. Some late evening brightness also perhaps across Northern Ireland, although the sky is fairly milky with that high-level cloud coming and going, and similar so across England and Wales, so a mixture of cloud and clear spells as we begin the evening. As we go through the course of tonight, it's going to stay largely dry across England and Wales, a mixture of cloud and lengthy clear spells. So once again, perhaps one or two isolated fog patches developing in the countryside and turning a little bit chilly, but not as cold as it was on Sunday night. Further north and west, though, that southerly breeze strengthening, so turning quite breezy here. And look at these lows, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius, so a very mild night to come for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. It does mean, though, that Tuesday is going to be quite a cloudy and breezy picture up here. So outbreaks of rain off and on, mostly across western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but perhaps fairly soggy at times across parts of the higher ground areas of western Scotland and Dumfries and Galloway. Some rain for Cumbria as well, but many parts of England and Wales largely dry with sunny spells and temperatures above average for most of us, 19 or 20 in the south and 17 in the north.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB Newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer says Reform UK's policy of scrapping indefinite leave to remain is racist and immoral. The Prime Minister has been speaking as Labour's annual party conference gets underway in Liverpool. Nigel Farage's party has pledged to remove settled status for non-EU migrants and deport thousands of people already legally living in the UK. The Prime Minister is hoping Labour's annual conference will revive public and party support in the face of plummeting poll ratings and threats to his leadership. Well, also at conference today, a series of protests has taken place against a range of government policies. Merseyside police say they are currently making arrests on suspicion of wearing or carrying an article supporting a proscribed organisation at a protest in support of Palestine Action happening in Liverpool. Other demonstrations have taken place today against Labour's proposals for digital ID. It comes as a petition against the measure has so far received more than 2 million signatures. A brief bit of breaking news from the US. Multiple people have been injured this afternoon after a shooting and fire at a church in eastern Michigan. The incident occurred at a Mormon church northwest of Detroit. Multiple victims have been reported and police say the shooter has been killed. Reportedly, the church is actively on fire. Authorities say there is no threat to the public at this time. We'll bring you more on that story and that press conference as we get it. Elsewhere, the Housing Secretary has announced plans to build 12 new towns in England, with construction on 3 of those to begin before the next election. Steve Reed, who's been signing Build Baby Build hats at conference today,